Guys, welcome back. Happy weekend. From last week, we saw that we pretty much held on to support, right? And we've broken out of this downtrend, rather this 3 month sideways consolidation, right? We knew this was heavy resistance. We broke out, we came back to retest it, and now we're pretty much on our way higher. So, I mean, we know few things, right? Number one is that we know that the market is kind of in a melt-up mode, which what does that imply? That implies that even though these rallies tend to make us really bullish, that we should be cautious because given all the macro news that is out there, it is very possible that this is just an exit liquidity rally. But again, that doesn't rule out the fact that we could, try to make an all-time high, which again is pretty much my last, base scenario is I think the market makes a new, continues to be on a bull run next couple of years, which is literally, I give it a 5% probability that that's going to happen. What I do think is more likely is 80% probability is this rally is just one last hurrah, right? For the market and for all the big funds to get out of their positions, strap more retail before it heads down. So at that point, right, you kind of have to figure out, what levels are very important, in the market and where we may have, significant reactions. So as you can see, I have pretty much, flipped the top of this, right, to the bottom, most recent low. And we can see that, we pretty much right now we are hovering over the 0.382 fib, which is the inverse 618. So essentially, this is also a golden fib, right? So intraday, right, we are 4255 becomes very important because if the market, struggles to stay over 4255, then we could be at risk for the top being in and we come back down. But right, like I said, this trend line here, very important. You can see that we've had multiple attempts to break it, significantly has failed, right? And I personally, given the way the structure is looking, I would still expect more bullishness in the market because, again, IWM is just starting to participate, right? Remember, we discussed this last week, how it's looking like a breakout. But again, this is just a smaller scale breakout, right? I zoom out and we look at the bigger picture, you can see the downtrend line, right? It's approaching that at 183. And unless, it can break over 183, it's not going to, head up to 190 and even 200. I still think that the IWM would need to reach 200, right, before the external markets kind of top as a whole. I won't be surprised if, overbought stocks like Meta, Microsoft, Nvidia just kind of sell off or go sideways. While, growth stocks, right? Let's look at the yields, for example, right? If the yields, right, this is kind of an important level. Unless if you were a growth bull, this is kind of how you would need the yields to follow through, right? But if you're a growth bear, then again, this 3.7 is the level to stay above. Stays above, then you could definitely see 4.3. Otherwise, if it rejects and comes back down, then given how, IWM kind of looks, then a lot of growth stocks that are off the ground could get pumped into the next couple of weeks, right? Till the Fed meeting at least. So that is one thing I am watching, right? This level at 182 is important. And again, we discussed QQQ last week, right? How it's potentially overbought and how this level at 351 is important, right? So again, last week I discussed how this could be viewed as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would make complete sense. The 3 is not in yet. So I wouldn't be shocked if we kind of have a pump and dump on tech this week before it continues higher. And I think rotation of money into like bags and oil and growth, right? And a cool down of tech. Like I wouldn't be shocked at all if that was possible. So yeah, bigger picture is kind of what I have on the market. With that being said, right, kind of look at this week's watch list. The first one is Square. We discussed this already, right? And the reason for that is, as you can see on this chart, this is a level of demand, right? And we have pretty much bounced off, retested, and bouncing off again. So it does look very healthy. There is good flow in Square. So, I mean, even the weekly candles are highlighting a reversal, right? So as long as Square, gets over 64, I don't see what should stop it from going to 67, 68, even 70, right? I think Square looks very healthy for further upside. So that's the first thing I have on this week's watch list. Next thing I have is FSLR. Again, the reason for that is this is the line we're kind of hugging on the support. So again, this is if it breaks 200, then it's very easily going to come back down to 180. So an empty volume gap usually will lead to a lot of sellers. So yeah, this is a very long, drawn out bearish divergence that's gone higher, right? So it's only a matter of time before FSLR breaks down and comes back to the downside. So that's the reason I have FSLR on this week's watch list. And the next one I have is, the next one I have is Chop. And again, this is kind of similar to what I said about Tesla when it was at 160, right? Watch and see. Will Shop get defended at 57, right? If Shop can get defended, you can clearly see this is a prior area of demand, right? So if Shop, like Tesla, can get defended at a prior area of demand, that would lead to a very bullish impulse, right? At least to 63. So, I mean, that's almost like a 10% move on the week. So that would be very interesting. So that's kind of what I am looking to see, whether Shop will, kind of get defended off this region, because it does have a bull flag going on, right? So if it does get defended and break out, that could make for a very nice bullish move to the upside. So that's the reason I have Shop on this week's watch list. And the last one, again, this we're playing a very small, short-term move, right? You can see this is one support. This is another level of support. If Roblox, breaks below 39.9, then I do think it can come down to 38 and 37.5, right? Kind of play out this wave too, right? It's the same thing as expecting Shop to, like if Shop sells to 57, right? Then I think Roblox also would likely sell to 37.5, 37.8, right? Finish this wave 2 and then possibly get defended for a wave 3 higher. So yeah, that's the reason I have Roblox in this week's watch list. We can look at Wix before I finish off. Remember, we discussed how Wix to 14 and 11, right? So far it came down to 14.5, not bad. Again, the next level I'm still looking at is 11.67, $11 to tag on Wix. So till then, I still think the melt up will very likely be in process in the market. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a great day.